Hello and welcome to our English news edition. Here are the major stories for tonight. Concerning the legislative election 2018, the electoral campaign for the legislative will begin tonight, says the Minister of the Interior. In Taiwan, the death toll of earthquake is increasing. Before developing the titles, this brief information on the electoral campaign for the legislative elections, the radio television of Djibouti will broadcast all the news and broadcasted and televised information and images relating to the electoral campaign. And now, more international news, an information meeting and exchange of experience between the Republic of Djibouti and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on the management of port and airport infrastructure was held yesterday at the Kempinski Palace Hotel. The brainstorming meeting was jointly led by the Minister of Equipment and Transport, Mohammed Abdul Qadir Musa, and his Saudi counterpart, Dr. Nabil bin Mohammed Al Amoudi. Senior officials and participants followed presentations by the National Investment Promotion Agency, the Port Authorities, and the Free Trade Zone of Djibouti, as well as the Saudi Public Investment Fund, all of which are related to port infrastructure of the two brother countries. In more delivered on this occasion, the Saudi Minister of Transport conveyed greetings from the servant of the two holy mosques and the Crown Prince to the Republic of Djibouti, the government and the people, thanking the Djiboutian authorities for the warm welcome and the generous hospitality. In turn, the Minister of Transport and Equipment, Mohammed Abdul Qadir Musa, held the sustained support of Saudi Arabia for Djibouti since its independence in 1977, showing that Saudi Arabia is an important partner for the process of economic and social development in Djibouti. And at the end of the two-party meeting, an agreement was signed between Djibouti and Saudi Arabia in the field of air transport. The agreement was signed by the Minister of Transport and Equipment, Mr. Mohammed Abdul Qadir Musa, and the Saudi Minister of Transport, Dr. Nabil bin Mohammed Al Amoudi, in the presence of the President of the Authorities of Ports and Free Zones, Mr. Abu Bakr Marhadi, and Air Chief Executive Djibouti, Abdurrahman Ali Abdallah, as well as Director of Maritime Affairs, Ali Mirah Shahim Daoud. The Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mahmoud Hassan, Secretary General of the Ministry of Transport of Equipment, Said Nuh, the senior officials of the ports and authorities of free zones in the National Agency for the Promotion of the Investment, and a group of businessmen took part. Under this agreement, air flights between the Republic of Djibouti and Saudi Arabia will be launched, and which will further strengthen cooperation in this area between the two countries. Then a guided tour of the capital's port and rail infrastructure in honor of the Saudi delegation led by the Saudi Transport Minister took place. They have successively visited the Durale Container Terminal, then the Durale Multipurpose Port, the new free zone which is under construction at PK23 and the Negari Station. The guided tour was conducted with the Transport Minister, President of the Authorities of Ports and Free Zones, surrounded by his main collaborators. A delegation led by the Saudi Minister of Transport was able to assess the quality of services offered by the port and rail in titles of our country, such as the unloading and loading of goods and other products shipped by the ships docks at our ports. Port officials and qualified technicians explained the various services offered to customers as well as foreign companies on the place. Under the auspices of the Ministry of Muslim Affairs, Culture and Waqf, a ceremony was held in Addis Ababa to distribute the third batch of the Waqf Asset in Sponsorship contribution funds in the offer of a Dina brand truck for the service of the cemeteries. The Minister of Muslim Affairs, Mumin Hassan Barre, along with his colleague of the communication in charge of policies and telecommunications, Abdi Yusuf Suge, went yesterday morning to Al Sabih for the distribution of the third batch of Waqf's property sponsorship contribution funds for the year 2017 and the offer of a Deen brand truck for strengthening the cemetery service in Al Sabih. On their arrival in Astajog, the two members of the government were warmly welcomed by the prefect of the region, Muhammad Wabir Asowi, Regional Council President Mr. Umar Ahmed Wais. The Minister of Muslim Affairs Culture, Mumin Hassan Barre, with the close collaboration of his main collaborators, proceeded in the presence of his government colleague Abdi Yusuf Suge and officials of the region a ceremony of distribution of the third portion of the Diwan Zakah management sponsorship funds for the district, as well as to orphanage children, and the provision of a Deen brand truck to further strengthen the work of the Diwan Zakah. For his part, the Minister of Muslim Affairs and Culture, Mumin Hassan Barre, thanked the leaders of the region in Asajok for their warm welcome. He announced the donation equitable for the annual religious duty of zakat must be imperatively a cultural habit for all wealthy citizens. The financial or material support of the poor must be a moral and religious obligation to scrupulous respect, he emphasized. The minister ended his speech by telling his audience not to stare off Diwan Zakat's fundraiser. The Secretary of State for Youth and Sports, Hassan Mohammed Kamil, along with his counterpart of employment, Hassan Samire, moved this morning to the PK-12 CDC. The two ministers are greeted warmly by a swarm of young people and a compact crowd of anonymous in the community center director, Mrs. Ruqiyya Hassan Sheikh. The trip is part of the employment promotion strategies advocated by His Excellency the President of the Republic, Ismail Mergele, who instructed to create a pool of employment office in the community development centers. In accordance with the wishes expressed by the young people during the National Dialogue Praising Youth of February the 1st, the two high-ranking officials and civil officials visited the premises of the various functions and the community center's playgrounds before finally setting foot in the beautiful spacious room dedicated to ANIFEB as part of a pilot project aimed to promote employment in this area. According to the Minister of Labor, the State Secretary for Youth and Sports has strongly contributed to the implementation of this pilot strategy for youth employment, which the President of the Republic is the true instigator. And finally, he expressed confidence that this strategy will bear fruit in the near future. The Minister of Energy in charge of natural resources, Mr. Younis Ali Gedi, received the French ambassador in Djibouti, Mr. Christophe Guilou. The minister has reserved a warm welcome to the French ambassador and his close associates, and during these discussions, the minister and the ambassador affirmed the will of the two friendly countries to consolidate the cooperation and the strategic partnership in the different fields. Took part in this meeting the Secretary General of the Ministry, Mr. Mohamed Kileh, and an advisor to the minister. In the same day, the Minister of Energy in charge of natural resources, Mr. Younis Ali Gedi, received this morning in his office the representative of the PNUD in Djibouti, Parpura Menzi, for a working visit. The minister warmly welcomed the UNDP representative and her close associates. The discussions between the minister and Younis Ali Gedi and the representative focused on the cooperation between his department and the UN institutions for development. During the discussions, the minister presented the various projects currently underway in the field of renewable energy. The representative thanked the minister for the warm welcome given to her and her delegation. The Secretary General of the MENFOP, Mr. Mohammed Abdullah Mahyoub, in the presence of senior officials of the Department of National Education, chaired yesterday afternoon at the CFF the closing ceremony of a training on the introduction of English in the primary schools. The training work on the introduction of English in basic education has brought together teachers of basic education, pedagogical advisors, principals and inspectors concerned. This training workshop, which started last Sunday, was given by the international expert Mrs. Shaina Susha from Jolly Phonics Company and named as well as the experimental introduction of English in basic education for the class of 3rd grade. The medical surgical caravan has indeed started its activities of art consultations, or a team of about 30 medical specialists are at work to provide care and assistance to the population of Arta since last Tuesday, February 6. Indeed, after the southern regions last November and those of the north at the beginning of January, it is therefore the turn of Arta that will close the second edition of the medical caravan launched by the Ministry of Health for the benefit of the rural populations of the interior regions. Thus, the caravan has set up its as well as offices in the regional hospital of Arta, which will house these activities of consultation, specialized care, and surgical operations until February 15. As a reminder, this caravan is being carried out by the Department of Health in partnership with the State Secretary for Social Affairs and the CNSS. It is here we close our national news. Stay with us for more details on the 2018 legislative elections. Welcome back, dear viewers, for this edition of the legislative elections. In a statement made to the local media, the acting Minister of Interior said that the election campaigns for the legislative elections will begin on Friday, the 9th of February. In this regard, the Minister praised the lists of candidates who are running for the legislative elections scheduled for February 23rd. The Minister urged all candidates with different parties to participate in these elections to respect electoral regulations and laws. He also urged not to use words and phrases related to tribalism, which will leave a negative impact in the community. And finally, the Minister noted that the campaigns are conducted peacefully and the introduction of its electoral programs to gain more performance without prejudice to the sentiments of others. In accordance with the regulation in force, the election campaign for the 2018 election will begin in the early hours of Friday, February 9 this evening from midnight. In addition, an information meeting was held this morning at the headquarters of the National Communication Council (CNC) on the distribution of airtime and media coverage of the parties in the running. This meeting gathered around the same table the heads of the lists and campaign directors of different lists that contribute to these legislative elections. Director General of Djibouti Radio Television Abdul Qadir Ahmed and the CNC President Ulufa Ismail took part in this meeting, as well as the other members of the CNC. The purpose of the meeting was to inform the heads of the lists and campaign directors of the parties on the prerogatives of the body that the CNC charged to ensure the fairness and equality of airtime to all the parties. And this time will have to be respected scrupulously, and that the Djibouti Radio Television will take into account during these legislative elections. Thus, a time of 10 minutes in each electoral district will have to be observed for each political party during the campaign, and as a result, a draw was made for the order of passage of each political party. And all this in transparency, the heads of the lists and campaign director to abide by these governing rules of the Constitution of our country. Then the different stakeholders invited to the meeting debated what can be revised in the rules of the CNC. Fruitful exchanges and criticism have been issued by the various leaders of the political parties that are competing in this election, namely the UMP represented by its president Abdul Qadir Kamil, the president of the UDG Ilaya Ismail Gedi Haret, who represents the UDG PDD group, and Qasim Ahmedini of the RTD. At the end of the discussions, everyone has expressed the wish for an election where no one should be left out of the public media. As a result, the RTD Director General Abdul Qadir Ahmed invited them to take part in a debate which will pit the heads of the lists against each other. Djiboutian democracy, an important step, he said, that has been held by all the heads of the lists, and the campaign director present the meeting. And at the end of the meeting, the list heads and campaign manager approved the law and timing of the antenna via a signature. UMP President Abdul Qadir Kamil, UDG President Ilyas Madge Diharet to represent the UDC and PDD party, Qasim Ahmed Dini from ARD, and Mohammed Ahmed Yusuf as well as spoke in turn.
Il faut savoir, c'est l'UMP qui est aux affaires. Il doit défendre son bilan devant la population djiboutienne. Je souhaite que tout le monde participe au débat d'une manière démocratique en se respectant mutuellement.
Il y a eu un débat fructueux, un débat assez tendu au début, mais à la fin nous nous sommes mis d'accord et nous avons donc approuvé ce que nous proposait la Commission nationale de la communication et ils ont privilégié l'équité dans toutes les régions. C'est vrai que c'était un peu plus tendu pour l'équité au niveau des sièges, mais nous nous sommes mis d'accord avec la mise en place de 1 minute 30 pour chaque candidat. Les partis politiques légalisés se présentent aux élections législatives. C'est une grande avancée. C'est une grande avancée qu'il y ait la Commission nationale de la communication. C'est une grande avancée qu'il y ait un débat au sein de la RTD. Et nous approuvons ceci et nous sommes là justement pour que cette démocratie avance de plus en plus.
La campagne ne commence que demain, donc je n'aborderai pas les questions politiques pour le moment. Tout ce que je tiens à dire à présent, c'est que nous remercions tous les membres de la Commission nationale de la communication pour la clarté de l'exposé et la sincérité dans les débats. Nous espérons que les compétences et le dévouement des membres de la Commission nationale de la communication ne seront pas vains et nous appelons de nos voeux la pérennité de cette institution pour veiller à la répartition du temps de parole.
شرعيا المنطقة رسيحني إن تسوحي متقنا تسد أنت إن شاء الله إن وقف والبؤوه قال سنة متقنا شرعية إن وحيابها سنة وحيابها ما أنت نقص بيري إن تكون متقنا يفوج جنادان أو إسكردا فهديت وحيابها متقنا عند الآن تلقص منه يو شرعي قالوه قال سنة دو إن وحنا له وأرن آد وفرتي ودن كان هرم مركز وبير وأرن آد ونكسن إن وحنا أرن كرا لبكون يلي تبنكي هدي الإيجو وح قبل قابس الدودها شركة متقنا هايد dibadda ka timiday maanta waxa la wana si wanaag dalkeena hadii laga organiseeyay oo laga sameeyay waxaan leeyahay bagaasi.
In close up, let's follow this reportage on the history and the work done by the National Assembly, commented by Mandar Mohammed.
At the National Assembly, there are 2 sessions a year. Those 2 big sessions brought together parliamentarians, members of the government, and the Prime Minister. During those 2 sessions, the Prime Minister gave a speech on the general policy of the country, where he retraced the orientation of the government and where projects are proposed, law that are important for the executive. With the approach of the legislatives, it is essential to return to the projects and laws which mark the 7 legislatives. The parliamentarians who sat in the August Assembly have examined and adopted about 200 laws. All of this to improve the living conditions of our population. Some of the laws we can mention are the Educational Act, the Health Act, as well as the law on private and public partnership, but also in a good governance. The latest law is the law that introduced the quota of 25 women to the electoral and public administrations.
As we say in our major stories and now on the news outside our borders concerning Taiwan earthquake, death toll rises to 79 as the aftershocks hammer rescue operations. The coastal city of Hualien was hit by a magnitude of 6.4 earthquake just before midnight on Tuesday that killed 9 people and injured 265. 4 buildings collapsed, officials said, and about 62 people were still missing. Aftershocks hammer rescue efforts on Thursday as emergency emergency personnel come to collapsed buildings in a search of the survivors after a powerful earthquake killed at least 9 people near Taiwan's populous tourist city of Hualien. Nervous residents endured a series of aftershocks, including a 5.7 quake last Wednesday and smaller tremors early on Thursday, and many of the missing were believed to be trapped in a 12-story residential building that was tilting at a 45-degree angle. Tenants and their furniture were flying across their apartments in the damaged building. Hualien is home to about 100,000 people. Its streets were buckled by the force of the quake, with large cracks along major roads. It is here we close this edition. Thank you for joining us on RTD channel. Have a good night.